So Britney Spears was arrested for a DUI recently, but the more you look into it, the more you realize this is way more complicated than it seems. The big question is, was this just a bad decision, or was it a deliberate setup? Let's get into it.
And that's really what this all boils down to, isn't it? On one hand, you have the official police report, which tells one version of the story. But when you start to look closer, there are all these little inconsistencies that have people believing this was an orchestrated trap designed to get control over Britney's life and, you guessed it, her money. Okay, so before we dive headfirst into all the theories, let's just lay out the basics. What are the police actually saying happened? You know, the official, by-the-book version of the story.
All right, so here's how the night apparently went down. It all kicks off at 8:48 p.m. when police get a tip about someone driving erratically. A little over 40 minutes later, at 9:30, Britney gets pulled over. She's then taken in, booked into jail around 3 in the morning, and then she's out by 6 a.m. A pretty quick turnaround, all things considered.
So what were the actual charges? Well, driving under the influence, but here's the really important part, of a combination of drugs and alcohol. Now, honestly, for pretty much any other celebrity, this is probably where the story would end. But this is Britney Spears we're talking about. And for her, this is where things start to get complicated. Yeah, because right away, people started noticing things that just didn't quite add up. Little cracks in the official story that started looking more and more like giant holes. Okay, just look at these red flags. First off, that 42-minute gap between the tip and the actual arrest. Why so long? Then the cops hold an official press conference for one DUI in Los Angeles. That's kind of wild. And maybe the biggest thing, this whole thing started with an anonymous tip. It wasn't just a patrol car spotting her on the road. And this might be the smoking gun for a lot of people. Her blood alcohol content was reportedly 0.06. Now, as you probably know, the legal limit in California is 0.08. So she was under the legal limit for alcohol, which means that whole drug part of the charge suddenly becomes absolutely critical to the case against her. And of course, the internet went wild. This comment pretty much says it all, right? People immediately started calling out what they felt was a massive double standard, comparing the intense focus on Britney to other celebrity DUIs that got way less attention. It was a total throwback to that whole leave Britney alone era.
Which brings us to the pills. This is where it gets really serious. The story is that police found pills, supposedly Adderall from Mexico. Now, they're testing them to see if they were pure or if they were laced with something much worse, like fentanyl or meth. I mean, if that's the case, her legal troubles could go from bad to catastrophic really, really fast.
So if we're going to entertain this idea of a setup, you have to ask the classic question, why? What's the motive? Well, you know what they say, follow the money. And boy, is there a lot of money to follow here. $200 million. That is the rumored price tag on her recent music catalog sale. Just think about that for a second. That's a life-altering amount of money, and for the first time in over a decade, it's her money. She is in control. And just to put that in perspective, look at this. During those 13 years in the conservatorship, her net worth was estimated at around $60 million. Now, after the conservatorship and after that catalog sale, it shot up to over $150 million. She's not just free, she is more financially powerful than she has ever been in her adult life. So that leads to the really uncomfortable question, doesn't it? With all of that money and all of that power finally back in her hands, who out there who used to have that control might want to find a way to get back in?
And that question puts a huge spotlight right on the people in her inner circle. Because when you look at what they said and did right after she was arrested, well, it doesn't exactly make the speculation go away.
So, first up, let's talk about her manager, Cade Hudson. You would probably expect a manager to come out swinging, defending their client, saying it's all a misunderstanding. Yeah, that is not what happened here. He called the arrest inexcusable and said he hoped it would be the first step in a long overdue change. I mean, wow. To a lot of people, that sounds a lot less like I've got your back and a lot more like a justification for some kind of intervention. It's language that gives everyone major flashbacks. And he wasn't the only one. Next up, her ex-husband, Kevin Federline. He also put out a statement through his lawyer that, let's just say, raised a few eyebrows. Now listen to the wording here. He hopes she will neither resist help or those who are attempting to work with her. You catch that? It's like he's already painting a picture where Britney is the one who's going to be difficult and uncooperative. It sets a narrative where she's the problem that needs to be managed. And then you hear all this other chatter. Suddenly, sources are telling reporters about an overdue needed plan. And that word, plan, that is a massive trigger word for anyone who followed the conservatorship saga. Not to mention, her mother and her sons just so happen to be in town at the exact same time. The goal, supposedly, is to get a judge to order her into some kind of program.
So you can see why this is so alarming for people who followed her story. It's not just about a single DUI. It's about a pattern. It's a sequence of events that feels terrifyingly familiar.
Think about it. Police get involved, there's a trip to the hospital for testing, and now there's all this talk of court-ordered programs. For Britney, those three things are directly tied to the most traumatic time in her life, the very beginning of the conservatorship. We have to remember the last time a chain of events like this played out, it ended with her losing her freedom for 13 years. She was in a hospital when her father was granted total control over her life. So you can understand why the parallels here are setting off some serious alarm bells.
So we're left with two totally different possibilities. Is this a tragic public sign that Britney is truly spiraling and desperately needs help? Or are we watching a sophisticated trap carefully being laid by people around her, designed to make history repeat itself? Right now, we just don't know the answer. But for Britney, the stakes could not be any higher.